we are in a very unusual situation. I've been in shipping for 38 years. We always heard about maybe the straits would close down because of a crisis, but nobody ever thought that it would actually close down. Straits are closed, oil has been cut in terms of the flows, maybe about 13 million barrels per day. Some of it has been replaced by pipelines going to Yanbu, etc. But there is a shortage of oil. In the near term, the last 3 months, it has been replaced by stocks. So the OECD and the Chinese have released a huge amount of stocks to keep the market stabilized. However, we are coming to the end of that cycle because stocks are now very, very low. And you need operational level of stocks, and we are reaching those kind of levels. So even though stocks seem that there are some, but they're not really there. So where do we go from over here? If this carries on, we're going to see demand destruction. That's the biggest risk to the tanker market today. I was in Indonesia a couple of weeks ago. They're talking about changing their motorcycles, which consume gasoline and diesel, to EVs. If they do that, there will be demand destruction in Indonesia to the tune of 300,000 barrels per day over the next 4 years. So this is not just the Indonesian phenomenon, it's a Asia-wide phenomenon where people are looking at that. But if in the near term the straits open up, I think we then go back to a place where the flows are normalized, the stocks are normalized, and we will be in a boom market for tankers for the next 12 months. But timing of this is critical. And that's kind of where we are in the market at this stage. So you cannot take out energy from the equation. So we're not talking about energy demand destruction, but we're talking about displacement of oil. I work in the oil industry, so we carry crude oil and petroleum product, and that's the thing that I'm most worried about. So some of this energy demand will shift to LNG. For the Indonesians, for example, they produce coal, so they will use more coal in their power plants. And then, of course, where will this EV conversion come from? Is from the Chinese. So the largest company in the world that produces motorcycle EVs is Yadea. And so that's a Chinese company, and it's a great opportunity for them to assist the Indonesians in this conversion. So I'm not saying that there is energy demand destruction, but definitely oil demand destruction, which is the crisis we are in right now. Is oil is one of the key factors, and then of course Qatar LNG is shut down as well. And then one other very important factor is diversification. Japan today imports 90% of their crude oil from the Middle East. They just released this morning their numbers for April imports. April imports are down 66%. So this is a huge problem for the Japanese, where they need to diversify their sources of crude oil imports. But it's not just them. The Koreans are at 70% from the Middle East. The Indians and the Chinese are 50% of their crude oil imports from the Middle East. So all of these countries need to diversify their sources of crude oil imports. Where will it come from? The Atlantic. So you have Guyana, Brazil, the US. The US has been exporting record levels, 5.5, 6 million barrels per day. Of course, this cannot be sustained forever because some of that is from stock, but they will import from near sources and export their high quality oil to the Asian markets on VLCC. So overall, I'm very bullish on the tanker markets, assuming the straits open up in the near term. The industry has already decarbonized by 50% as compared to where we were 20 years ago. Nobody talks about that because all the sales guys are here touting some measure or the other to decarbonize further. So there's no doubt that we want to decarbonize further, but we should also acknowledge that fuel consumption on tankers or any type of ship, if you take from 20 years ago, is down 50% today. And in 3 years' time, what new buildings are coming out are even more efficient than what they are today. However, of course, yes, we need to decarbonize further. So in that sense, we can already see there's a lot of emphasis on wind, on other energy efficiency measures. And then, of course, everybody's looking at alternative fuels. I have known Nicholas for many, many years. I think I first met him probably in 2008. It's almost 20 years ago now. I'm a huge supporter of Capital Link. I have had a lot of benefit from actually working with Nicholas. He's also doing IR for me, for my firm right now. We are listed on NASDAQ. But I have seen him across many of the companies that I've worked with, which have been publicly listed. So they're very good with what they do on IR, but on conferences, they're unparalleled. Today, I think about 1,300 people are attending this conference, and I don't know a larger shipping conference than Capital Link. And it's not because of Nicholas, it's because of the quality of the speakers that he turns out. The event is really useful, and it's really worthwhile being in the room and listening to the people who are in there.